Hey everyone, my name is Josh and welcome back to your fourth stimulus package and news update. We have a lot of news to get into in today's video, but first, if you would like to receive 1 free stock from Robinhood and 2 free stocks from Webull valued up to over $2,000, make sure to claim them by clicking my links, which you will find, as usual, in the description box below. Okay, so President Biden suffered a couple of setbacks yesterday, with the first being the Supreme Court blocking his vaccine mandate for private businesses. The court ruled that COVID-19 is not an occupational hazard, but rather a universal risk. However, the court did rule that healthcare workers would need to be vaccinated unless they decided the alternative of being fired without being able to receive unemployment benefits. So the ironic thing here is the Supreme Court ruled that healthcare workers are the only people who can't make decisions about their own health. The second setback for the president yesterday was Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema doubling down on their refusal to nix the filibuster. Yesterday, Manchin said that he will not, under any circumstances, vote to eliminate or weaken the filibuster. Reason being, if we allow one party to exert complete control in the Senate with only a simple majority, it will only pour fuel onto the fire of political whiplash and dysfunction that is tearing this nation apart, especially when one party controls both Congress and the White House. In other words, 51% of the Senate shouldn't get their way 100% of the time. Even though Senator Kyrsten Sinema supported voting rights bills, she also said that she will not support ridding the filibuster.
I share the concerns of civil rights advocates and others I've heard from in recent months about these state laws. I strongly support those efforts to contest these laws in court and to invest significant resources into these states to better organize and stop efforts to restrict access at the ballot box. And I strongly support and will continue to vote for legislative responses to address these state laws, including the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act that the Senate is currently considering. I support these bills because they strengthen Americans' access to the ballot box, and they better ensure that Americans' votes are counted fairly. It is through elections that Americans make their voices heard, select their representatives, and guide the future of our countries and our community. These bills help treat the symptoms of the disease, but they do not fully address the disease itself. And while I continue to support these bills, I will not support separate actions that worsen the underlying disease of division infecting our country. The debate over the Senate's 60-vote threshold shines a light on our broader challenges. There's no need for me to restate my long-standing support for the 60-vote threshold to pass legislation. There's no need for me to restate its role protecting our country from wild reversals in federal policy. It is a view I've held during my years serving in both the U.S. House and the Senate, and it is the view I continue to hold. It is the belief that I have shared many times in public settings and in private settings.
Without these two Democratic senators supporting getting rid of the filibuster, Democrats won't be able to pass voting rights bills with just a simple majority. Without being able to pass the bills with just a simple majority, they won't be able to pass through the Senate. So in other words, another one of Biden's big agendas to start this year is completely dead. Regardless, the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that even though they will be leaving Washington early this week because of the snowstorm, they will be back in session on Tuesday, skipping the recess, to hold a vote on the voting rights bills. Once they fail, which they will fail due to not having any Republican support, they will then attempt to nix the filibuster. That effort will also fail because once again, as I just noted, Manchin nor Sinema are on board with getting rid of the filibuster. Yesterday, the president even acknowledged for the first time after leaving a meeting with Senate Democrats that they may not be able to get this done.
It's done. I hope we can get this done. The honest to God answer is, I don't know whether we can get this done. Is this mic on? I guess, anyway. And I'm not sure either. But anyway, I hope we can get this done. But I'm not sure. But one thing for certain, like every other major civil rights bill that came along, if we missed the first time, we could come back and try it a second time. We missed this time. And the state legislative bodies continue to change the law, not as to who can vote, but who gets to count the vote. Count the vote. Count the vote. It's about election subversion, not just whether or not people get to vote. Who counts the vote? That's what this is about. That's what makes this so different than anything else we've ever done. I don't know that we can get it done, but I know one thing. As long as I have a breath in me, as long as I'm in the White House, as long as I'm engaged at all, I'm going to be fighting to change the way these legislatures have moving. Thank you.
And as if things couldn't get any worse for the president, a recent Quinnipiac poll shows him slipping to just a 33% approval rating, sinking lower than America's love for broccoli or pineapple on their pizza. Out of frustration yesterday, the president decided to ignore questions from the press and smirked as reporters were escorted out of the room.
Mr. President, can you have a message for vaccinated Americans who are wondering why they should continue to restrict their activities given that your health officials say most Americans will get COVID at some point?
Folks, we'll talk about that later. Come on. Let's go.
Why should Americans trust your administration to beat COVID when the virus is
Mr. President, on voting rights, do you think the Republicans would go support voting rights on things?
The virus is fairly white, sir. Why should
Thank
it
you, President. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Mr. President, do you believe Omicron is the beginning of the end of this pandemic?
Thank you so much, President. Thank you.
How much longer do you think school people have to wear masks, sir?
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
More bad news for the president and his agenda is the fact that Build Back Better has only lost momentum since the beginning of the year. And with the recent inflation report from 2 days ago, you can only imagine Senator Manchin is even more opposed to more spending, and no conversations have taken place in several days. However, we can expect that conversations may start back up again at the start of next month, and you would think with the State of the Union on the 1st of March, some progress would definitely need to be made. Yesterday, the White House Press Secretary Jim Psaki told reporters that despite all the rough patches in the first year, they certainly won't be giving up.
You're determining next steps. I mean, frankly, things just seem like they're going pretty poorly right now for the White House. Build Back Better is being blocked, voting rights is being blocked, diplomatic talks with Russia doesn't seem to have brought us back from the brink of war, inflation's at a 40-year high, the virus is setting records for infection. So as we kind of hit this 1 year period and a period where everything seems like it's in pretty rough shape, or nearly everything, which is not an invitation, I guess, to list off some other things. I'm wondering at what point do you take stock and say that things need to change internally, whether it's your outreach toward the Hill, whether it's the leadership within the White House. You seem to be stymied on an incredible number of fronts right now.
Well, let me give you a little bit of a different take on this. More than 200 million people are vaccinated. We've had a record job growth, record low unemployment rates historically in this country over the last year. We've rebuilt our alliances and our relationships around the world. And right now, as it relates to Russia, as you heard our National Security Advisor convey, we're working with partners around the world to convey very clearly. It's up to them to make a choice about what's next. We're not going to make that on their behalf. It's up to them to determine if there are going to be crippling economic sanctions or not, or if they decide to move forward. But we also recognize when you have a small margin and threshold in the Senate, it's very difficult to get things done and to get legislation passed. And the fact that the president, under his leadership, got the American Rescue Plan passed, a bipartisan infrastructure bill with 19 votes in the Senate, about 6 votes in the House, the fact that we are still continuing to work with members to determine the path forward on Build Back Better, that we have the vast majority of Democrats in the Senate supporting voting rights, that's a path forward for us. And our effort is to do hard things, try hard things, and keep at it. So we just don't see it through the same prism.
So the sense is things are going well, there's no need for change right now.
I think that having worked in a White House before, you do hard things in White Houses. You have every challenge at your feet, laid at your feet, whether it's global or domestically. And we could certainly propose legislation to see if people support bunny rabbits and ice cream, but that wouldn't be very rewarding to the American people. So the president's view is we're going to keep pushing for hard things, and we're going to keep pushing the boulders up the hill to get it done.
In some lighter news, after a spike in cases in numerous cities throughout China, some of them are beginning to once again lock down. And sure, another lockdown is certainly bad news, but where it got bad for one woman and perhaps her blind date is that the two are now stuck together until further notice. Will you imagine that? Definitely sounds like a future book in the making. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Again, if you would like to receive 1 free stock from Robinhood and 2 free stocks from Webull valued over $2,000, make sure to claim them today by clicking my links in the description box below. So once again, I do hope that everyone has a great and safe rest of their day, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.